Okay, we're back again, and I'm going to start a little bit different way this time. I've been reading from my Kindle Fire, my book called Molasses Moon. And I just use this little stand and set the book or the Kindle Fire on my table and then read from it. I love this little device. I like the regular Kindles too. They don't have the glare and they can be read in direct sunlight, and they're very easy on your eyes when you're doing serious a few hours at a time reading. But this one is really great for short term, and like what I'm doing here when I'm just sitting at the table and reading. Let me get myself organized here. I put this up on top of a bowl so it's about the right level. We were talking about the letter from Gerald F. McCauley. Really nice letter. And then at the end of that, I'll start reading here where I evaluate a little bit more. And then continue on with the progress of what we had set up. It is a nice letter. Thank you, McCauley. Maybe he thought I was writing a serious scientific treatise. I don't know how you say that. Or maybe thought that a satiric style reaches only a select audience. I agree with him there. Which is why I wondered if I should call my writing satire. Most satire is dry and cutting, so dry and cutting it could make flick calcium off a backbone. I slice away from reading satire myself, not wanting to feel the knife. Yet, as you know, my humor isn't painful. It's lighter than most satire, isn't it? Hell, maybe I should check satire in Funk and Wagnall. Satire. Sarcasm, irony, or wit used to ridicule or expose abuses or follies. A written composition in which satire is used. Sarcasm. Ironical or scornful utterance. Contemptuous and taunting language. From the Greek, to tear flesh. Sneer. Irony. A sarcastic or humorous manner of disclosure in which what is said is meant to express the opposite. A result, ending, etc., the reverse of what is expected. Yes. Now I remember why I avoid satire. You're supposed to laugh while being slapped in the face. Smile while you do that. I can see why it's not popular. So what do I call my humor then? Canned slapstick? Maybe I should just call it silly. That's it. I'm silly. Silly, silly, silly. Silly. Destitute of ordinary good sense. Foolish, stupid, absurd. Me? Foolish? That was yesterday. They even made a holiday out of me. Well, hell, Funk and Wagnall doesn't like me. Since it's put out by Harper's Torch, maybe I'd better avoid that publisher. But I like their imprint almost as much as Bantam's. I know. I like all the imprints. I talked to Barbara on the phone today. She still lives in LA, of course. She had returned my call from this morning when I had wakened her from a Saturday sleep-in. She had returned the call around noon after she had taken her small son Danny on an Easter egg hunt and run a few errands. During the conversation, Barbara suddenly stated, "I'm in my drawer right now." I like silliness. Barbara's a good one for batting laughter around. In my drawer was her uncanned response to hearing the end of Chapter 10, where she was going to send a brochure of Seattle's best beans. It was in an envelope in her drawer, waiting a couple weeks to be addressed. She laughed when I read aloud her saying, "I haven't had my coffee." She chuckled at several sentences, including the preface explaining why I don't dance in the light. I only read a couple pages over the phone, select pieces of Chapter 10, and the first few paragraphs of the preface. This call was on her dime. She's contributing to the perm I'm saving for. Barbara, being a stylish woman, believes wholeheartedly in perms, especially for women with fine hair who are working like the devil to keep up with the Shirleys. Asterisk. Excuse abrupt change of subject back to an earlier one, but I've been thinking maybe I should write back to Gerald McCauley. A courteous response like his deserves a thank you. April 2nd, 1994. Gerald McCauley Agency, P.O. Box A.E., Katona, New York, 10536. Dear Mr. McCauley, thank you for your kind letter in response to my query regarding my satire sextet. You may know how often agents respond to anything not referred by a contact with a "Dear author," it doesn't sound like unsigned form. Thus, I'm taking the time to say I appreciate the courtesy of your responding specifically to me. I realize, as you implied in your letter, it is important to have the right editorial contacts to sell any particular work, and that writing focusing on an esoteric intellectual elite repels any editor sane enough to aim for profit from his acquisitions. I believe in capitalism probably more than most business people. In addition to thanking you for your courtesy in class, however, I want to note that my work is not aimed to a small elite readership. The contrary is true. My difficulty seems to be in nutshelling my work to publishing professionals, which is why I so desperately need a good agent. I'm currently nearly finished with Molasses Moon, a non-fiction manuscript appealing to a wide commercial audience with light, downright silly humor. It's an exposé of a writer attempting publication simultaneous to investigating the conspiracy to take the spice out of life, as well as the fizz, fire, and freedom. Fizz, fun, fire, and freedom. The writer in this work, me, is also moving like molasses, trying to make sense out of the quirks of quantum physics while making up her own cues. If you have a few editorial contacts who don't take themselves so seriously as to avoid ever being silly, feel free to request the well-seasoned Molasses Moon manuscript. Thanks again for what I would call class in responding to my query. Yet I don't expect another response unless you're interested in seeing the mentioned manuscript. Full of fire, but not burning out. And sign my name. Don't worry, I mentioned in the above letter that I'm nearly finished with this manuscript, but I won't leave you hanging out to dry with goads all over your clothes. I mostly said that in case McCauley won't consider an unfinished manuscript. Some do put you off that way. Then when you're finished and send it, they have another reason to put you off. They send the form saying they have no room for you, or that your subject, style, or setting doesn't fit their list. Asterisk. You know, I've been writing new stuff non-stop without going back to revise or print out since chapter 14. I have no idea what page I'm on. You can't make a book too long or publishers will be turned off by that. They think readers don't like books beyond a certain magical length. How does something fresh ever get into closed, stale shops? Why would something fresh even want to be there? Good questions. So, speaking of fruitcake, I think I'll take a break. Okay, I can't stand it. I'll do it. You see, do you hear me? I'll do it. Okay? Or you can do it. I'll revise and reprint the letter to McCauley, make it shorter, tell him he's in molasses, capitalize quantum physics, and the Q words. It's all useless anyway, you know. McCauley won't like silliness. However I write the letter, it'll go off into a black hole in the publishing world's closed shops, and that'll be the end. Besides, Herman might get brilliant and decide to toss molasses at Banta. What a sticky mess that would make. See, I can't help it. Silly, silly, silly. Hopeless. But I do sound somewhat sane and even professional in my letters. Don't you think? You might even get the idea I have an IQ somewhere. Actually, I have lots of I's and a number of Q's. Now if I could just get them together. Dear Mr. McCauley, thank you for your kind response to my query of January 28th. You may know how often agents reply to anything not referred from someone. With a dear author, it doesn't sound like unsigned form, if they reply at all. Thus, I'm taking time to appreciate your response. I realize, as you implied, the right editorial contexts are needed to sell a particular work, and a manuscript focused on an esoteric elite. Manuscripts focused on an esoteric elite repel editors sane enough to seek profit in acquisitions. I believe in capitalism more than most business people do. In addition to thanking you, however, I want to note that my work is not aimed to an elite. I have that in all caps. The contrary is true. I haven't nutshelled my work correctly, which is why I so desperately need a good agent. I'm nearly finished with Molasses Moon, a nonfiction manuscript appealing to a wide commercial audience with light, if not downright silly, humor. It's an expose of a writer seeking a publisher simultaneous to investigating the conspiracy to take the spice out of life, as well as the fizz, fun, fire, and freedom. The writer in this work, me, is also moving like molasses, getting down to the quarks of quantum physics while designing her own cues. You probably can see in a written form that the letter does look a lot crisper and just right, with the right capitals. And it might be hard to tell exactly what was changed, but it does tighten it, as they say in editorial circles, quite a bit. On with the letter. If you have editorial contacts who don't take themselves so seriously as to avoid being silly, request the well-seasoned Molasses Moon manuscript. You're in it. And that I put in italics. Though I respect your courtesy, I don't expect a response to this unless you're interested in reading Molasses. Full of fire, but not burning out. That little bit there, you're in it. Well, it might do something. I wonder if I'll get a response to this. He should receive it by Wednesday or Thursday, April 6th or 7th. Oh hum, another chapter down the tubes. Sailing along with the tumbling tumbleweed. Chapter 19. Primitive Dreams. Marriage breaks down. An anthropologist and a tribal woman from the rainforest split the grass. See the tearful conflict. That got my attention and kept it. On April 3rd, Easter Sunday evening, on cable TV's Discovery Channel, National Geographic documented this story. Following the current fad glorifying primitive existence and desecrating industrial achievement, the documentary elevated the tribal jungle life of disease, starvation, life scarring, insect irritants, and drooling shamans. No wonder the natives torture and eat tarantulas. They're not only venting frustrations, pissed, over the inaccessible locations of McDonald's, they're trying to get back at the insect kingdom's pesky feeding off them. Which is more childish? 1. Blowhard bragging, we're right, you're wrong. 2. Or bowing, scraping, you're right, we're wrong. Having such a big ego, I'd rather brag myself. I repeat, which is more childish? The down-your-nose superiority complexes of early missionaries who invaded and upgraded, in their own image, tribal cultures, indeed any culture beyond their own. Or the current unabashed moral scientific preference of the jungle over our upwardly mobile tech structure. Thumbs down on both those attitudes. In all fairness, the documentary appeared to be trying to balance facts of both cultures, ours and theirs. I understand why an anthropologist or an ecologist might be overwhelmed by the sophisticated confusion of capitalistic ambition. Being a hermit, I tire rapidly of mobs, money, and mania myself. I don't tire of money. I tire of my lack of it, and of the difficulty and delay getting it, due not to capitalism, but to the closed attitudes of stale shops, and to choosing a career in which high investment is risked and expended before the return begins, if it ever does. But why are we so either-or oriented? Why do we either glorify ourselves and put everyone else down, or glorify everyone else and put ourselves down? Can't we appreciate ourselves as well as give eye-to-eye respect to others? As I've soapboxed here, a culture is supposed to provide a life bubble of health, comfort, entertainment, camaraderie, and safety to its subscribers. No way of life has yet earned the right to be called truly sacred or even effective. I'll admit various lifestyles are interesting. That's why I watched the documentary. Yet, judging by my own standard, U.S. capitalism, crippled and condemned though it be, is closest to earning the right to be called sacred. And speaking of sacred, the last new episode of Star Trek featured Hollywood's best-loved heroes, Indians, and ecologists' favorite fantasy, the de-evolution of the human species. Here we go again, or there we went again. According to reclusive research, an astrological cycle is currently cultivating regression to the primitive. The purpose is to gain perspective, enlightenment, and respect for the present levels of accomplishment. Regression has been easy, but the light bulb hasn't come on. The power's off. The conspirators did it. They like turning things off so they can sit at home in the dark, twiddling green thumbs and eating sour grapes. They like keeping everyone else in the dark even more. In my novel, A Field of Daisies, I blame a God-level power failure for the advent of insecurity. Hollywood has certainly jumped on the regression bandwagon to beat the band. You probably don't know, not being an astrologer, weird even to other astrologers, that TV and movies, even new book releases, somehow follow themes of astrological cycles. Isn't that amazing? Maybe there's a magnetic field focus of planetary movement themes that draws our minds to them during prime times. Maybe this explains Carl Jung's synchronicity effect. Excuse me, but I think I need a break. I don't know what I want to ease the heat up. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want to ease the heat up here. Iced tea or grapefruit juice. Right now I would take some grapefruit juice, but I don't have any. Organic if possible. I'm tired of GMOs, tired of additives, tired of all the... Don't get me started. That's from 2012. Maybe I'll go downstairs and see what hits me. Hopefully it won't be shattering glass from a falling pitcher. I do have a few empty fruit jars on top of my fridge. Nowhere else to put them. My cupboards are crammed. Not of food, of dishes. I have a fetish for china, as you know from my Sun-Moon quartet. Dishes don't deteriorate or depreciate if you don't break up the sets. Don't tell IRS. I might go into the china business once I accept that I'll never be a good writer. I'm back from my break an hour later. My round white Ingram timepiece hanging on the wall on the other side of the window from Gemstar was wrongly showing 3 o'clock. I hadn't changed it to daylight time yet. Upon noticing the same brand and size red clock in the kitchen, I realized it was not 3, but 4. Star Trek was on. It was rerunning Data in his first romance, failing to be touched emotionally, thus failing to meet the woman's needs. I thought she was crazy, myself. What a catch Data is. It was interesting that the girl emphasized the human need for emotional touching. Hollywood's as heavily into sentimental slobbering as it is into glorifying the primitive. I blame the blubbering on psychology's popularization. Celebrities have been stereotyped, sporting steroid pushers on the one arm and head shrinkers on the other. I wonder if these professional trainers shrink minds and bust buns at the expense of backbones, the same way blood pressure pill peddlers do. But enough of my griping and complaining with a mouthful of sweet grapes. I'd better quick wrap today's new stuff. A storm's brewing with a hell of a wind factor. Yesterday, today's Monday, April 4th, there was a power outage in Rockville during a mild breeze, shutting down Gemstar after I had typed chapters 14 and 15 into my outline. Contrary to normal procedure, I hadn't saved any of the work on disk from the beginning of the effort. I lost it. It wasn't as catastrophic to lose that as it would have been to lose Saturday's effort. I was glad I had worked all day Saturday until 1 o'clock Sunday morning, writing, revising, and printing chapters 14 through 18. It would have been horrifying to lose that. I had compulsively pushed the progress on Saturday. Needless to say, today, getting back to it, I didn't get a cold drink to take up here after Star Trek. Hot coffee is the order of the afternoon. Degrees are dropping in earnest. I'm not ashamed to say I drink decaffeinated. My brain buzzes too much without caffeine. I think I'll pause there. Say that now I'm back to regular because of all the research and writing about the processes to make coffee decaffeinated. I just decided to go natural, and I use organic fresh beans and grind them in my little grinder. My coffee is improving. It's not quite as bad as it used to be, and it really smells good when it's perking. Dripping, I mean. Time to shut off for another day. Oops, I just bumped my Kindle and changed the page wrong. So I hope you're doing well, and we'll see you another day. Did I stop it?